When hosts Carole and Paula sang on giant toadstools inside a whimsical garden studio, they created what the New York Times called an inadvertently psychedelic children's show that rivaled Sesame Street, all filmed with the same cameras used to capture Yankees home games on a set that survived for 12 years with just 52 episodes that aired over 4,500 times. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about. The Magic Garden, Fact 1. Accidentally psychedelic design was never intentional. When the New York Times reviewed the Magic Garden, they described it with a surprising phrase, inadvertently psychedelic. The show's colorful, dreamlike set featured oversized mushrooms, vibrant flowers, a magical tree, and swirling patterns that seemed straight out of the 1970s counterculture movement. But according to the creators and hosts, none of this was intentional. The psychedelic aesthetic that made the show so visually distinctive wasn't a deliberate artistic choice or a nod to the era's alternative culture. It was simply the result of working with a limited budget and trying to create an engaging children's environment with whatever materials and design choices were affordable. The bright colors, whimsical proportions, and fantastical elements were all practical decisions made by set designers who were focused on capturing children's imaginations rather than making any kind of cultural statement. The timing just happened to coincide with an era when psychedelic visuals were part of the broader cultural landscape, which made the show's innocent, budget-conscious design choices appear far more intentional than they actually were. For a generation of children growing up in the 70s and early 80s, the Magic Garden's unintentionally trippy aesthetic became a defining memory, proving that sometimes the most memorable creative choices happen entirely by accident. Fact 2. Giant toadstools served as the main seating. Throughout the entire run of the Magic Garden, hosts Carole DeMas and Paula Janis never sat on ordinary chairs or benches. Instead, they perched on enormous, oversized toadstools that served as the primary seating throughout the show. These mushroom-shaped props were brightly colored and large enough for the adult hosts to sit comfortably while singing songs, telling stories, and interacting with their young viewers. The toadstools became one of the most iconic and memorable visual elements of the series, creating an immediate Alice in Wonderland atmosphere that transported children into a fantasy world where normal rules didn't apply and everything was slightly larger than life. The design choice reinforced the show's magical, storybook quality and gave the garden set a distinctive fairy tale aesthetic that set it apart from other children's programs of the era. For many viewers who grew up watching the show, the image of Carole and Paula sitting on those giant mushrooms while wearing their flower crowns and colorful outfits remains the single most vivid memory of the Magic Garden. The toadstools weren't just props, they became symbols of the show itself, representing the whimsical, imaginative world that Carole and Paula invited children to visit every day. Fact 3. Only 52 episodes aired over 12-plus years. The Magic Garden had one of the most unusual broadcast schedules in television history. The show originally aired from 1972 to 1984, a span of 12 years, but the entire series consisted of just 52 half-hour episodes. Nearly all of these episodes were taped during the first 2 years of production, primarily between 1972 and 1973, and then those same episodes were rebroadcast continuously for over a decade. This meant that an entire generation of children in the New York tri-state area watched the exact same 52 episodes over and over again throughout their early childhood years. Kids who started watching as preschoolers would see the same episodes repeated when they were in elementary school, creating a strange time capsule effect where the show never aged or changed even as its viewers grew older. The repetitive broadcast schedule was common for local children's programming in that era when production budgets were limited and stations relied heavily on reruns to fill airtime. For WPIX, the 52 episodes proved to be more than enough content to satisfy their programming needs for more than a decade, and the show's timeless quality meant that new young viewers continued discovering it even as older children moved on. Fact 4. Yankees camera crew filmed the show. The same camera crew that filmed the Magic Garden also had another very different job at WPIX. They were responsible for broadcasting New York Yankees home games. This unusual arrangement meant that the technical staff who spent their days capturing two women singing on toadstools in a whimsical garden would then head to Yankee Stadium to film professional baseball games. The equipment, cameras, and personnel were shared between these two completely different types of programming, creating an odd behind-the-scenes connection between children's television and sports broadcasting. For the crew members, the contrast couldn't have been more dramatic, moving from the quiet, controlled environment of a studio children's show to the loud, unpredictable atmosphere of live sports coverage. This dual-purpose arrangement was practical for WPIX, which operated as an independent station and needed to maximize the use of its limited technical resources and staff. The camera operators who framed shots of Carole and Paula picking flowers from the Chuckle Patch were the same professionals who tracked fly balls and captured close-ups of Yankees players at bat. It's a reminder of how local television stations in the 1970s operated on much tighter budgets than today, requiring creative resource management and versatile crews who could handle vastly different types of live and recorded content. Fact 5. Filmed in NYC's Art Deco Daily News building. The entire Magic Garden set was built and filmed inside the WPIX studios, which were located in one of New York City's most recognizable landmarks, the Daily News building at 220 East 42nd Street in Midtown Manhattan. This Art Deco skyscraper, completed in 1930, was famous for its distinctive architectural style and its enormous rotating globe in the lobby. The building is perhaps best known to popular culture as the inspiration for the Daily Planet building in the Superman comics and films, where Clark Kent worked as a reporter. So, in a strange way, the Magic Garden shared a home with Superman's fictional workplace, both occupying the same iconic structure that had become synonymous with 20th century journalism and media. The WPIX studios occupied space within this landmark building, where the whimsical garden set with its toadstools and magical tree existed just floors away from the building's famous globe and Art Deco details. For children visiting the studio for appearances on the show, the journey through this impressive Manhattan skyscraper must have felt like part of the magic itself, walking through marble lobbies and past the giant globe before entering the fantastical world of the garden where Carole and Paula waited. Fact 6. The Christmas special was lost for 32 years. In 1981, WPIX produced and aired a special one-hour Christmas episode of The Magic Garden that was longer and more elaborate than the regular half-hour episodes. The special aired once during the holiday season and then completely disappeared from circulation. For 32 years, fans of the show who remembered watching the Christmas special as children wondered if their memories were accurate or if the episode had ever really existed at all, since no copies seemed to be available anywhere, and WPIX had no record of it in their active archives. Then in 2013, something remarkable happened. The lost Christmas special was discovered in a forgotten sub-basement tape vault at WPIX. The original broadcast tape had been mislabeled and filed away incorrectly, where it sat untouched for more than 3 decades while fans searched for it. Once the special was rediscovered, WPIX began airing it annually during the Christmas season, and it has now become a beloved holiday tradition for both longtime fans and new generations of viewers. The rediscovery of the lost Christmas special felt like finding a time capsule from the past, and it represents one of the few pieces of new Magic Garden content to surface in recent decades. The fact that it survived at all is remarkable, given how much vintage television programming from that era was lost forever when tapes were reused or discarded. Fact 7. Vintage studio cameras from the early 70s. When production on The Magic Garden began in 1972, WPIX used General Electric PE2 50-color studio cameras to capture the show. These were professional broadcast cameras that represented the television technology of the early 1970s, large and heavy by modern standards, but state-of-the-art for their time. Around 1975, the station upgraded to RCA TK45A cameras, which were also professional studio cameras that offered improved color reproduction and reliability. Both types of cameras are now considered vintage broadcast equipment and are highly sought after by collectors and television history enthusiasts. The General Electric PE250 cameras were particularly notable for their distinctive color rendering, which gave early 70s television programming its characteristic warm, slightly soft look that's immediately recognizable to anyone who remembers watching TV from that era. The RCA TK45A cameras that replaced them were workhorse machines used throughout the mid to late 70s by local stations and smaller networks. The fact that The Magic Garden was shot on these vintage cameras contributes to its nostalgic visual quality. The slight softness of the image, the way colors bloomed and bled slightly at their edges, and the overall warmth of the picture are all artifacts of this older camera technology that give the show its distinctive period look that cannot be replicated with modern digital equipment. Fact 8. The Magic Tree actually lowered real objects. The centerpiece of the Magic Garden set was the Magic Tree, which wasn't just a decorative backdrop, but a functioning piece of stage equipment. The tree was designed with a practical mechanical system built into the set that allowed it to actually lower real objects from its branches during filming. Throughout episodes, the Magic Tree would deliver viewer greeting cards, props needed for segments, and various objects that Carole and Paula would receive as gifts from the tree itself. This was accomplished through a rigging system hidden within the set construction that used cables or pulleys operated by crew members out of camera view. The mechanical nature of the tree made it a genuinely interactive element of the set rather than simply painted scenery, and it added an element of real magic to the show since children watching at home could see actual objects appearing and descending from the tree's branches. The tree's ability to deliver items became a recurring feature throughout the series, and children learned to anticipate moments when the Magic Tree would present something new. The practical effects system was relatively simple by today's standards, but it was effective and reliable enough to be used repeatedly throughout the show's production. This kind of in-camera practical effect was common in children's television of the era, before digital effects and computer graphics made such physical mechanics seem old-fashioned. Fact 9. Carole filmed. On her day off from Broadway host, Carole Dema had an incredibly demanding schedule during the early years of The Magic Garden because she was simultaneously starring as Sandy in the original Broadway production of Grease, one of the most successful musicals in theater history. Grease opened on Broadway in February of 1972, the same year The Magic Garden began production, and Carole performed in the show 8 times a week in the evenings while filming Magic Garden episodes during her days off in between matinee and evening performances. This meant she was essentially working 2 full-time jobs, splitting her time between the intimate children's television world of the garden set at UPIX and the high-energy rock and roll atmosphere of Broadway's Broadhurst Theater. The scheduling was exhausting, requiring Carole to shift between 2 completely different performance styles and audiences, going from singing wholesome children's songs on giant toadstools to belting out 50s rock numbers in a poodle skirt for adult theater audiences. She maintained this dual career for an extended period, proving her remarkable stamina and versatility as a performer. For someone watching The Magic Garden in the early 70s, they might have been completely unaware that the gentle, friendly host sitting in the garden was the same actress receiving standing ovations on Broadway every night as one of the most iconic characters in musical theater history. Fact 10. The Chuckle Patch used pre-recorded giggles. One of the most beloved segments on The Magic Garden was the Chuckle Patch, a section of the set where large daisies grew with jokes written on their leaves. When Carole and Paula would pick a flower from the patch to read the joke aloud, the flowers would giggle in response. This giggling sound effect wasn't created live during filming. Instead, the show used pre-recorded laughter that was triggered at the appropriate moment, creating an interactive audio element that made the flowers seem alive and responsive. The pre-recorded giggles added personality to the Chuckle Patch and made it feel like the flowers were genuine characters rather than just props, giving children the impression that the entire garden was a living, breathing place where even the plants had distinct personalities and could react to what was happening. The sound design choice was simple but effective, and the giggling flowers became one of the most memorable recurring elements of the show. The audio team at WPIX would have recorded the giggling sounds separately and then played them back during the post-production or triggered them during the live-to-tape filming process, synchronizing the laughter with the moment when the hosts picked each flower. This kind of practical sound effect work was standard for children's television in the 70s, when shows relied on creative audio choices to bring fantasy elements to life without expensive visual effects. Fact 11. Only a one-page script guided each episode. Despite producing 30-minute episodes of children's television, the Magic Garden operated from remarkably minimal scripts. According to both Carole and Paula Janis, each episode was guided by just a one-page script outline that provided only the most basic structure for what would happen during that day's filming. This single page would list the songs to be performed, which segments would be included, and perhaps a few key talking points. But the vast majority of the content, including the banter between Carole and Paula, their interactions with viewers, the storytelling moments, and the transitions between segments, was completely spontaneous and improvised. This approach gave the show its natural, unrehearsed quality and helped create the genuine friendship and easy rapport between the two hosts that viewers found so appealing. The improvised nature of the show meant that every episode had a slightly unpredictable quality, with Carole and Paula responding authentically to each other rather than delivering memorized lines. This minimal scripting approach was risky in some ways, since it relied entirely on the host's chemistry and ability to fill time naturally. But it worked because both women were experienced performers who understood children's television and could intuitively create engaging content without needing detailed scripts to guide every moment. Fact 12. The set remained unchanged for all 52 episodes. Unlike many long-running children's shows that update or redesign their sets over time to keep things fresh, the Magic Garden maintained virtually the exact same set throughout its entire production run. The Toadstools, Stone Wall, Swings, Shed, Chuckle Patch, and Magic Tree remained in their same positions and appearances across all 52 episodes, filmed between 1972 and the early 80s. This consistency was partly a result of the show's limited budget and the practical reality that the set was built to last, and there was no funding available for major redesigns or upgrades. But it also created a timeless quality that contributed to the show's nostalgic appeal. Because the set never changed, episodes from 1972 looked essentially identical to episodes from the early 80s, creating a consistent visual world that existed outside of normal time. For children watching the show in endless reruns throughout the 70s and early 80s, the unchanging set became as familiar as their own bedrooms, with every toadstool and a flower in its expected place. This permanence gave the garden a reliable, comforting quality that reinforced the show's core message about friendship and imagination. The static nature of the set also meant that production could remain simple and efficient, since crew members always knew exactly where everything belonged and how to light and shoot the familiar environment. Fact 13. Created to meet new FCC children's TV requirements. The Magic Garden didn't come into existence by accident. It was specifically developed in 1972 to help WPIX satisfy newly mandated Federal Communications Commission educational programming requirements for children's television. Throughout the late 1960s and early 1970s, advocacy groups like Action for Children's Television had been pressuring the FCC to require television stations to provide more educational content specifically designed for young viewers rather than just broadcasting cartoons and entertainment programming. In response to this pressure, the FCC began implementing stricter guidelines about the amount and quality of children's programming that broadcast stations needed to provide in order to maintain their licenses. WPIX, like other local stations across the country, needed to demonstrate they were serving children's educational needs, which led to the creation of the Magic Garden as a locally produced program that could fulfill these regulatory requirements while also being entertaining enough to attract an audience. The show's gentle educational content, teaching social skills, encouraging creativity, and promoting positive values through songs and stories, was carefully designed to meet the FCC standards while maintaining the entertainment value that would keep children watching. The regulatory environment of the early 70s directly shaped what the Magic Garden became, and why it existed at all. Fact 14. The stone wall was a puppet performance space. The low stone wall that ran along one section of the Magic Garden set served a very specific technical purpose beyond simply being decorative scenery. This wall was carefully designed and positioned at exactly the right height to allow puppeteers to operate comfortably while remaining completely hidden below the camera frame. One of the show's recurring characters was Sherlock the Squirrel, a puppet who would appear on top of the stone wall to have conversations with Carole and Paula. The wall's height was calculated so that puppeteers could stand or kneel behind it, operate their puppets at a natural working height for extended periods without fatigue, and never accidentally appear on camera during filming. This kind of thoughtful set design was essential for making puppet characters work effectively in live-to-tape television production, where there were no opportunities for digital removal of visible puppeteers in post-production like there would be today. The stone wall's placement and construction had to account for the puppeteers' physical needs, the camera angles that would be used during puppet segments, and the sight lines that would keep the operators invisible to viewers at home. The result was a performance space that looked natural on camera while functioning as an essential technical element that made the puppet interactions possible and believable for young viewers. Fact 15. Entire garden fit in a small den. WPIX Studio. Despite appearing spacious and expansive on television screens, the complete Magic Garden set was actually squeezed into a relatively small television studio space at UPIX. The entire environment, including the magic tree, oversized toadstools, stone wall, swings, garden shed, stone path, and Chuckle Patch, was contained within a studio that WPIX shared with other productions, meaning the set had to be compact enough to fit into the limited space available. The illusion of spaciousness was created through careful camera work, strategic set design, and the use of painted backdrops that suggested the garden extended far beyond what was actually built. Camera operators would frame shots to avoid revealing the edges of the set and to create the impression of a much larger, more expansive outdoor environment than actually existed within the studio walls. The tight quarters meant that crew members had to work efficiently in limited space, navigating around set pieces and equipment while staying out of camera view during filming. For a show that was meant to evoke an endless magical garden full of wonder and possibility, the reality was that the entire fantasy world existed within a modest studio space that could probably fit inside a typical suburban house, demonstrating how much could be achieved through creative design and skilled camera work, even with severe physical limitations.